On the banks of the two-toned river, this quiet hamlet is known as Khongchiam, located on the easternmost district of Thailand. Khongchiam is known to most Thais as a tourist destination of national parks with strange geological formations. A unique tradition that originated from this region is bleeding away like chemical dyes on the clothing most of us wear today. Decades ago, cotton was a common plant grown by most households. The collected bunches were used to create clothing in a process that was entirely done by hand. Today, the value of these ethereal gems is often overlooked by the general populace. After the cotton has been picked during its annual season, it is brought to workshops like this one. Here the cotton is traditionally spun, dyed, and woven into cloth. From there it can be transformed further into a variety of products that conveniently are sold right next door. A combination of preserving cultural traditions and developing sustainable practices is the primary aim of Once Upon a Time.
In my generation, it is really difficult to find anyone interested in tradition. A lot of us see it as boring, time-consuming, and of little value. This generation and younger are mostly interlinked within the culture of consuming things and having things being readily available with little delivery. It's considered a norm. Having been born in the United States of America, this was even more so the unquestionable norm. It wasn't until I started asking questions to fill my curiosity. Questions like, where did this come from? How is it made? What is it made out of? Then I realized that when these questions can be answered, this object for consuming suddenly held much more value. I realized that everything had its own unique story. But because we are unaware of these stories, what values do these things have? So to combat the issue of missing value, we decided to really go back to the roots of tradition in this area. But there's one problem. How would one make tradition, something that people usually associate being old and uneventful, into something unique and valuable? Once Upon a Time is built to showcase tradition, but also to bring a unique perspective to tradition. Visitors may come here for a brief cup of coffee or choose to stay at our homestay for a longer experience. We use the term edu-stay, short for educational stay, since our main goal is for guests to learn something while visiting. Whether that be something as little as seeing cotton trees for the first time, or learning the entire process of weaving through our internship program. Everything is accessible for every audience. And I think that is a really important step for teaching value to those who are unaware or take tradition for granted. One other value that we wanted to celebrate at Once Upon a Time are sustainable values. Creating an educational space is not only useful to teach values to visitors, but to teach locals about sustainable values that they might overlook. We are able to provide locals with a great local job opportunities and a positive and safe workplace. Locals will not have to leave their families to work in Bangkok or other cities to find jobs, which may not always provide the best work environment, as well as the cost of living there being much more expensive. Creating good jobs that is all about arts and crafts also allow local women around this area to be able to empower themselves with creative work and good income. It is also another way to build interest in younger generations to learn these skills and therefore keep the tradition alive. We really want to support Khongchiam. It is such a unique location with defining features, and cotton is such a fantastic way to do so. We have provided a market for the locals to come back to growing cotton again, so they can grow crops that are more sustainable rather than relying on growing crops like tapioca, which sells for very little and is damaging to the soil.
Traditionally, locals grow cotton according to the natural season of rain and drought, and on small scales on the riverbanks. Every year, the riverbanks flood during the rain season and drastically decrease as the drought season approaches. This cleans up the banks and deposits new sediment every year, requiring no fertilizer to be added to grow. Cotton is also grown mixed with corn and green beans. The diversity of crops limit the number of invasive species. Because of all these traditional methods and natural cycles, this makes Khongchiam one of the best places in Thailand to naturally grow cotton.
We work closely with both locals and organizations in Thailand to produce sustainable native species and yields of cotton, implementing new technology not to replace, but to create efficiency that further enhances the traditional techniques. At the same time, we still do a lot by hand, which gives the cotton a well-maintained quality and traditional practice. We do most of our weaving here, but we also send some to locals for them to weave around this area. After we weave, we take these fabrics and we turn them into products by sewing them here at our shop as well. So the entire process is done by hand. When we open the shop for everyone to see, people will able to see how much skill and time it takes into making something, from the very beginning to the very end of the process. Therefore, they are able to acknowledge the value that these products really have. We have gotten really positive responses from those who have visited, and these responses help inspire and motivate us and the locals to continue educating and keeping the tradition and relationship of Khongchiam and cotton alive. Thank you! ขอบคุณค่ะ